Imagine finishing month-end reporting before lunch. It's not a fantasy, it's just a better process. In this video, I'm going to show you my 7-step system for faster financial analysis. I'm going to walk you through step by step and show you how to execute this with tools you already have on your computer, like Microsoft Excel. With these 7 steps, you'll be moving so fast that everyone around you is going to stop and go, "How do they do it?" Welcome to the channel. I'm Mike, and if you're new here, I'm a senior finance leader, and over the last decade, I've worked in finance everywhere from the Fortune 100 all the way to brand new startups. And over that time, I've done more than 300 month-end close cycles. Earlier in my career, it was slow, and that was fine because I had the time. I didn't have other responsibilities. I was fresh out of college. If it took me Saturday to finish the close, who cares? But as my life got busier, as I got a family, as I got more responsibilities, that just didn't work anymore. So I started looking for ways to speed up the close process while keeping the quality and the accuracy high, if not even higher. And today, I want to share my system with you. This system has taken what used to be 4 or 5 days of close work down to less than a day, giving the same output and getting me back to supporting business partners. Make sure to stick around to the end because even one of these hacks could save you hours every month. All 7 of them together makes you unstoppable. With all that out of the way, let's get started. What is financial analysis in this context? Well, what I'm talking about is the business insights, the actionable insights that you're drawing out during a month-end forecast process, during a forecast cycle. It's about you bringing information to the business and adding value as a finance professional. That's what I mean by financial analysis. This process is best designed in one of those cycles, like in a monthly reporting cycle or in a quarterly forecast cycle, but you can use the frameworks and you can use the tools in any kind of analysis, even just random requests from an executive. Now, why would you want to do financial analysis faster? Well, it's really tough in financial analysis to not get dragged down a rabbit hole. You have to remember, it's not about being able to explain every single number on the page. It's about coming back to the business with actionable insights, with things that can be taken action on. And if we spend a week working on financial analysis, less than 10% of that is going to have actionable insights. And that's why we want to move faster. We want to draw out those actionable insights as fast as we can so we can get back to things that support growing the business, saving costs, and really focusing on the core part of our job. So the first thing that we need to do when we start with any analysis process is get our data. And a lot of times that's done where, we're downloading data from systems, we're pulling in an Excel file from here, a CSV file from here. But the great thing is that there's a free tool built right into Excel that's going to do all that automatically for you called Power Query. Now, this is going to be an overview of how you can quickly use Power Query in an analysis process. If you want to learn Power Query in depth, I've got a great video on that. I'm going to put the link right here. Make sure to check it out. It's going to tell you a lot more about Power Query, but here's how you do the basics to pull in fresh data every single month. So we're going to come up to data, and Power Query is hiding right here in this Get and Transform Data section. We're going to go to the Get Data dropdown, and we're going to start pulling in all of our month-end information. So the first thing we're going to do, we want to pull in our sales. We'll go ahead and import that. We'll select transactions. This is the data we want to pull in. And this is critical. We want to load it to our data model. This is going to be important for step 2. So we want to just create a connection. That means we're not going to pull the actual data into the file. We're going to connect to this other file. We're going to add it to our data model, and then we can hit a refresh button, and it will automatically pull the data in. And so now that we've loaded our data, this queries and connections window comes up, and it shows us what we have here. And now the great thing is, as long as you don't change the name of the file, every single week, month, whenever you need to update your analysis, all you have to do is save down a new file, hit this refresh button, and all of the data will automatically come into your file. Now, I'm going to pop a few more files in, and then we're going to go ahead and move to our next hack. So this is how you bring all of your data in automated on a monthly basis. So now for hack number 2, we're going to build reusable pivots that update using that data that we automatically pulled in from Power Query. Now this is going to be with a tool called Power Pivot. If you remember how we checked that box to add this to a data model, that data model allows us to do a lot of really cool features right within Power Pivot, and we can pull things straight into our Excel pivots. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to insert a pivot table. And I want to insert this pivot table from the data model instead of supporting it from a table, because I'm going to go to all that data that Power Query's gotten for us. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. And now you'll see I've got multiple data sources here, unlike if I just selected a table. From here, I need to create relationships. So what you'll see is in this product pricing, I've got my product IDs and my unit price. And in transactions, I've got product IDs again, and I've got the count of my sales, but I don't have any information about my revenue because I need to combine the sales price with my transactions to do that. So let's go ahead and create this relationship. So I'm going to come up here to calculations and relationships. I'm going to create a new relationship. I want to create a relation between product ID in the data model table, product ID in the transaction table. All right, and so now we've got those two connected. So now what I want to do is I want to create a calculated measure. So let's go ahead and open this up. We're going to write this in a language called DAX. Just like with Power Query, I'm showing you how to use the basics of this to build reusable pivot tables. If you want to learn all about Power Pivot, I've got a video on that. You can learn it in 15 minutes. I'll put the link for that right here. That's going to go in depth into getting you started, but these are the basics you need to run my 7-step process. So we're going to put this in the transactions table. I'm going to call this measure name revenue because this is going to be our sales revenue. And this one is going to be our transaction quantity. It's going to be multiplied by the related unit price. All right, we'll go ahead and hit enter. So now you'll see if I go to transactions, I've got this new measure down here. It's indicated by showing that there's a formula, and this is revenue, and it's taking the relevant pricing. It's automatically looking all that up, what we would normally do with a VLOOKUP. It's doing all of that automatically, and it's going to let me pull it straight into the pivot. So I've got a pretty standard pivot here. I've got all of our product categories down the left side. I've got all of our months across the top, and now I'm going to pull in this new revenue we calculated. And boom, there it is. We didn't previously have any revenue in this table. We've now, without doing a single VLOOKUP formula, we've created this reusable pivot that will automatically refresh when we pull in new data, and it's going to calculate all of our revenue information for us using pricing and quantity without us having to lift a finger or, again, write a single VLOOKUP formula. And of course, if you want to take it one step further, these pivot tables also work with pivot charts, just like regular tables. These also work with slicers, just like regular pivot tables. But you have the benefit that everything will automatically refresh as you pull in new data every month. Have any questions so far? Go ahead and drop them in the comments. I read and respond to every single one, and I'm more than happy to help. Now, let's move on to hack number 3, which is building standard ratios versus trying to analyze it every single month and visualizing those ratios so you can quickly look for outliers and identify anything that might be causing an issue. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy our data set in here. So this is the data set we're going to be working with. This is our P&L information for our coffee shop. This coffee shop is going to go across January to December, and this is our revenue information, and then this is our expense information. We'll give a space just so that's clear. Now let's come down and do our revenue, and that's just going to be the sum of our coffee sales and our food sales. And then down here we're going to have the cost of sales, and that's just going to be this one line for ingredient cost. There's that. All right, and now we're going to do our gross margin. This is a key percentage that we want to track to make sure there's nothing wrong with our cost base. All right, and we'll format that, and there is our gross margin percent. Now that's going to be really important in a second, but let's finish our metrics. Let's go ahead and do our labor percent of revenue down here. We'll do marketing here and utilities here. And now this is versus what we could do is we could come in, we could look at our numbers and then start doing these ratios every single month. I've seen a lot of people do that. But by building this table, we can just automatically look for outliers and we know, hey, marketing looks fine, disregard it, move on. Hey, something looks wrong with labor, let's spend some more time researching. It's a really good way to focus your efforts and make sure you're looking for the right things. Now we'll go ahead and calculate these. So it's going to be our labor divided by our revenue. We'll lock revenue down, so we can just drag this down like this, and we'll go ahead and make that a percentage, and then we're going to take all of these and move them over. So here's our trends. Now you can kind of see there's a lot of volatility in gross margin. There's some volatility in our labor and our marketing. So how do we have an easy way to look at that without having to scan every single percentage? Well, that's where Sparklines come in. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to create some Sparklines, which is going to visualize for me this trend so I can see quickly if there's anything I need to spend some more time on. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit this line button. I'm going to select my data range, just like so, and it's going to give me this really cool chart right here showing what's happening. And you can see kind of in the summer months, there was a gross margin problem. And unfortunately, gross margin's actually ticking up over time. Definitely something that we want to take a look at. Now let's go down our labor, our marketing, and our utilities. again, we're seeing some weird spikes, especially as we get out to kind of the September timeframe. So something happened in September, and that's really where we want to focus our efforts. We're seeing this spike across all of our cost types. We're seeing it kind of tick up across the year, and we definitely want to spend some more time on what changed in September and why are our costs trending upwards. Hack number 4 actually starts before you get to month end, and this is with using driver-based forecasting. The great thing about using driver-based forecasting is it gives you the drivers that you can report back against at the end of the month instead of just reporting against revenue expense. Now, what this looks like in the case of our coffee shop is instead of looking at coffee sales and food sales, we're going to look at the coffee transactions and the food transactions against the check average, or how much coffee is being sold per transaction and how much food is being sold per transaction. These are the actual drivers. How much is each customer spending on a transaction and how many of them are we doing? Those turn into our revenue, but the operational drivers, the check average and the transactions, is so much more valuable for our business, and it makes our month end a lot easier. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build in the driver section. Now up here, we're taking our revenue that we have from our system and we're implying the check average. But as we build our driver-based forecast, we're going to do it in reverse. And we're going to calculate our revenue forward based on the coffee transactions and the food transactions. Now, I've got some standard assumptions based on what I know in the business. So I'm going to say that, from pricing and inflation, we're going to be able to take up our coffee check average and our food check average 3% and 5% respectively. Then from a transaction standpoint, we know we're losing coffee transactions. That's not good, but it's the reality we have to address. So coffee transactions right now are going down 5%, and food transactions will go down 0%. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take last year's numbers and put it against these percentages. So you see all I'm doing here is I'm taking this 5% down against what I did in January to forecast January 2025. And then it's just the easy math. This is just going to be our coffee transactions times our check average, and that'll give us our revenue. Carry that down, a little bit of formatting to keep it clean, and then we'll just simply drag all these across. And that is a driver-based forecasting. Now let's say that we're looking at May 2025. As I get my actuals in, I can look back not just at my revenue, I can look back at my coffee transactions, my food transactions, and my check averages to see where I went wrong and to understand in detail what's changing in the business. So again, you have to set this up before you get to month end, but there's few things more valuable than driver-based forecasting because it will both increase your forecasting accuracy and it will make your analysis so much faster and so much more in-depth. If this video is helping you out, then make sure to click the link down in the description and join my weekly newsletter, Finance Automation Insider. I'm going to send you hacks, tips, and tricks just like this every Thursday. Plus, when you sign up, I'm going to send you a free copy of my guide to 15 5-minute finance automations that you can start using today. Everybody's talking about it in finance, AI tools. How do you use AI tools in a way that doesn't just give you a crap output and helps you work faster? The thing about AI tools is they can get 80% of your effort on a project done, but you always want to be doing the last 20%. And I've got a perfect example of how you can use AI tools in your analysis. So I've got a data set here, and I want our AI tool to look through this data set and tell me quickly if there are any anomalies that I need to be looking out for. So we're going to pop this into ChatGPT, a totally free tool. A lot of you may have access to Copilot, Claude, Gemini, whatever you have. Just pop it in and follow this prompt. So I've got my prompt pasted into ChatGPT. Again, totally free tool that you can sign up for. I do use the Plus version, but that's just because I use this tool all the time. You can use this totally free. Now, this prompt is using my Spark framework. This is the best way to prompt AI tools for finance. If you're not familiar with the Spark framework, I'll put the video up here. I go step by step through the Spark framework so that you can get the best out of your AI tools. Our prompt is going to be act as a financial analyst. Review the attached table in Excel. Identify any outliers in the data set so that I can do additional research. Give me a bulleted list of major outliers and why they are outliers, and ask me any questions you need to give the best possible response. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add our file. There's our analysis hack. Once it's loaded, we'll hit send, and we'll see what it gives back. All right, so you see it's processed the table. So ChatGPT's come back. It's given us this great chart that we can actually download. It's looking at our z-scores. That's from statistics. If you know it, great. Otherwise, I won't go into it. Just know that the z-score shows if it is an outlier relative to the data set. And it's given us a couple things we need to look into. Our food sales were off in a couple months. Our ingredient costs were off a little bit in February. Actually, they were lower. We saved some money on labor in August. July was a little bit rough. So these are some things we need to look into that don't match the trend and don't match our expectations. Really fast, really easy. And this is letting the AI tool do the 80% of the work of identifying the outliers. Now you do the last 20% to understand why these outliers happened. All right, for number 6, we want to revisit our driver-based forecast from step number 4, and we're going to look at building scenarios. Our forecasts are never right. I've never done a forecast that was perfectly right, and I'm sure you'll never do one. It just doesn't happen. Our goal is to be as close as possible and also help the business understand the risks and the opportunities. And with that in mind, we'll often want to range these, and that's where scenario analysis comes in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what-if analysis in Excel to change some of my drivers down here and see how the business could look different if we find better ways to do things. So I'm going to go ahead to go to my what-if analysis, and I'm going to go to Scenario Manager. This will let Excel do all of the work of scenario planning for you, as long as you have these kind of dynamic files where you can change inputs. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a new scenario. This scenario is going to be called worst case. I'm going to change cell C20. All right. And then the value here is actually going to be negative 0.15 because there's a chance our sales could get worse. All right. Then we're going to add in the base case, which is going to be our current assumption. All right. And that's going to be our 0.5. And then I'm going to add in the best case, where we could potentially increase our transactions by 5%. So those are our 3 scenarios, our worst case, our best case, and our bear case. So now I want to go ahead and I want to run our scenario. So we'll go ahead and hit summary. I want to select my result cell. So that's where I expect to see the result of changing that value. And I want to see my total coffee sales. We'll hit OK. We get this brand new chart over here and it shows the impact. So if it goes down 5%, which is the base case, we'll be at 217. If it goes down 15%, we'll be at 215, and if it goes up 5%, we'll be at 219. And you can do this, you can make these scenarios as complicated as you want to be, you can run them through multiple steps of your drivers, but it's a really great way for Excel to do all this work for you. And if you go back and make changes to the model, you just hit update and it's going to all update again. That's really the key of all of this, is being able to just click one button and a lot of the work is done for you. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I post new videos like this every single Monday, and I don't want you to miss a thing. And lastly, hack number 7 isn't so much an analysis tool as it is how you present the analysis to your leadership. It's really important to let people have questions to you either before review meetings or to be ready to discuss during the review meeting, so you don't have a huge list of follow-ups coming out of the meeting that can just extend your close even further. The secret to this is the pre-read. You're going to send a 1-page, maybe 2-page summary out showing the key financials and some of the actionable insights that you found based on that, using everything here, the drivers, going down to the business, going to the deep questions to understand what can help the business. This is where you want to use the what, why framework. This entire thing should be based on what you found in the information, why it happened, and what they can do about it. If you aren't quite sure why something happened, ask why 3 times. Our labor's unfavorable. Why? We ran more overtime. Why? We don't have enough heads hired, so we had to have our existing team work more. We're understaffed. Okay, what you can do about that is get with HR and start ramping up your staffing. So ask why at least 3 times and use the what, why, what framework to make sure that you're giving everyone a view of what's happening before they walk in the meeting. They can come prepared with any questions or preferably ask you in advance so you're prepared to answer them. And everyone is on the same page, ready to go, and month end can be done after the review meeting, not continue for days after as you answer follow-ups. The key to all of this is to build your analysis process so that it's reusable. Even if there's a few things you need to go in and tweak, even if you're rewriting brand new commentary every single month, make the core of the process automated so you can quickly see your metrics, you can quickly see what matters, your data pulls in by itself, your forecast is easy to explain any differences. Everything is reusable and you're not treating your monthly or quarterly cycles like they're a one-time ad hoc analysis. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely check out my video on how to build a dashboard in 20 minutes or less. It will take your financial analysis and your automation one step further. I'll catch you over there. This is Mike signing off from F9 Finance. Cheers.